Hello and welcome to Sunset Television. You're watching Security Scan with me, Vishal, Dahiya, and today we're going to talk about Indian Navy and how its capabilities are being strengthened. Now, Indian Navy's third stealth Scorpene class submarine INS Karanj was commissioned this week at the Naval Dockyard in Mumbai. 6 Scorpene class submarines are being built in India by the Majgaon Docks Shipbuilders Limited, Mumbai, under collaboration with Messrs Naval Group, France. Significantly, a day before INS Karanj was inducted into Indian Navy, the Defence Research and Development Organization, that is DRDO, conducted the final development test of Air Independent Propulsion System, that is AIP, in Mumbai. Now, this is also a major step which will make Indian submarines more lethal. So, we're going to talk about these two aspects, also the related developments and how all these augment the capabilities of Indian Navy. And for more on this, we're joined by two distinguished guests. Let me first introduce them to you, beginning with retired Commodore Anil Singh is with us. He is Vice President of Indian Maritime Foundation. And we also have the Senior Editor from Economic Times, Mr. Manu Pubby. Welcome, both of you, to Sunset Television. Let me begin with you, Manu, and let's start by understanding the significance of these two events when we talk about, the capabilities of Indian Navy and how they're being augmented step by step.
See, the commissioning of the Karanj is a big event for the Navy. As we know, the Indian Navy has had a shortage of submarines as such in the force. Most of the submarines in service right now are the older Russian kilo-class submarines and some of the STW ones, and they need to be replaced, or we need to have more capable submarines in place. The Karanj has been commissioned. It's like you said, the third of 6 of such submarines to come. It's a bit late, it's a bit behind time, but it is extremely needed, especially now, when we are seeing how China has been behaving, in the South China Sea. We've seen them trying to push towards the Indian Ocean region. Submarines will be our, a big line of defense against increased Chinese presence. And, the other point you brought it out, the AIP, the Air Independent Propulsion System, that also interestingly is also linked to the Karanj and the Kalvari class of submarines, because the plan is, when the first major refit of the first of the class ship comes out, that this AIP will go into the Kalvari class of submarines, which will even enhance their capability more. There will be, I'm sure the officer will give you details of the technical aspects of it, but it really adds a great capability for extended operations, which makes them very deadly and very, very lethal for the enemy in waters that they are in.
Okay. Let's hear it from Commodore Singh as well. Commodore Singh, you've been there, and then if you want to understand the entire issue from the end user's perspective, specifically when we're talking about the AIP system, but also the importance and significance of the Scorpene class submarines and INS Karanj, which has been recently inducted.
Well, the commissioning of INS Karanj is definitely a landmark achievement. It greatly augments India's undersea warfare capability, as Manu brought out, because we have a shortage of submarines. Our submarines are old. We recently gave one of our submarines to Myanmar, which further reduced the strength of. So at the moment, we now have class 45209, all of which are more than 20 years old, and 3 of the Kalvari class which have been commissioned, one in 2017, another in 19, and now the third one in 2021. 3 more of this class are going to be added perhaps over the next 3 or 4 years. At the end of this decade, in terms of numbers, we would not be very much better off, because while 3 more Scorpions will get added, 3 more of the Kalvari class, we would also probably have to decommission some of our older submarines which are more than 35 years old. So while numbers may not really seem very encouraging, even by the end of this decade, the capability certainly would be. Now, one of the major limitations with the Scorpion submarines, for a submarine that has been commissioned in the 2020s, is the lack of an AIP. The air independent propulsion has almost become an integral part of every conventional submarine. And till such time we are not able to fit these submarines with an air independent propulsion system, their operational deployment capability will be somewhat restricted or will be constrained compared to contemporary submarines with other navies. So we have to be very quick in retrofitting the AIP on board. So DRDO's recent announcement that they've carried out more or less the complete development of an AIP system is very encouraging. However, a word of caution. At the moment, this AIP is on a test bed. It is not an operational system on board a submarine. and operationalizing it, fitting it on a submarine, getting it integrated to the rest of the submarine's complex systems is also not an easy task. And is going to be probably undertaken when these submarines start going in for their long refits. The Kalvari will probably go in for a refit in another 3 years from now. So, countries like, while Germany, France and all have mature AIP systems, Sweden, Korea, China, Singapore, of course, has got one from Germany, Japan. Countries like Russia and even Spain, which started working on AIPs many, many years ago, are still struggling to operationalize them on board their submarines. So I think we should, our optimism is a little bit. I have no doubt that the DRDO system will perform, but we still are at least 4 to 5 years away from an operational AIP submarine at sea, a minimum of 4 to 5 years away.
Okay, and that much is the time which usually it takes for any system to be operational there as well. But Commodore Singh, make us understand a little bit more about the importance, significance of an AIP system in a submarine. Why is it that much important?
The major limitation that a diesel electric submarine, there are conventional submarines. What we have are called conventional submarines. So they are basically run by electric motors. These electric motors need batteries to run them. These batteries need to be charged, for which there are diesel generators. So basically a diesel generator is run as a generator to charge the batteries, which in turn power the motor, which moves the submarine. Now, as battery power is given to the motor, the batteries keep getting discharged. So they have to be periodically charged by the diesel generators. Now, all diesels require fresh air for running. So far the limitation was that a submarine, depending on what was the speed profile of that submarine, would have to expose itself above the water to get fresh air for the diesel generator to be able to charge the batteries. With battery technologies improving, this time was being reduced progressively. So a stage at now, submarine, you probably, if you were maintaining a low petrol profile with low speeds, you'd probably need to come up for a few hours once every 2 or 3 days. What an AIP system does, AIP stands for Air Independent Propulsion, which means that to propel the submarine now, you don't need to come up for the diesel to take air. There are technologies within, different technologies. The Germans have the fuel cell system, the Swedes have the Stirling engine system, the system. So there are different technologies, but the basic function is that the diesel can now get that air from within itself, within the submarine itself, which is that fresh air being generated by the AIP system. So if you have an AIP system on board, that diesel does not require fresh air from outside. Therefore, the submarine does not need to surface. And the difference in performance is that, AIP systems like the German fuel cell system or the Swedish AIP Stirling engine system, if a submarine maintains a very low speed profile, when it's in a patrol area where it doesn't have to show itself, it's waiting for the enemy, it can remain tight for anything from 10 to 15 days without exposing itself. So compared to having to come up once in 2-3 days to having to come up once in 10 to 15 days is a huge advantage for a conventional submarine, which is operating in shallow waters, which could be in the middle of, enemy action. So you are not now constrained that because of batteries, you have to come up, whether there is the enemy on top, there may be enemy helicopters on top, there may be enemy aircraft on top, there may be enemy ships on top, and you have no choice but to come up because your batteries have got discharged. Now you have the option to continue to be underwater for a much longer period of time and choose your time when you want to come up, when it's safe to come up and charge your batteries. So that is the advantage.
That indeed explains the importance of the AIP system and makes it, really, really crucial for the submarines, the conventional submarines out there. Manu, I'd like to bring you back in here. And, whenever we talk about Indian Navy, one thing which comes out is that as far as augmenting its capabilities is concerned, and here both the indigenous aspect, specifically the indigenization aspect, that is really, really prominent. And the way, this entire journey has been, how would you, join the dots here and summarize this journey of augmenting the capabilities as far as Indian Navy is concerned so far?
So Indian Navy, has been ahead of the game from the other forces. They are the ones who have really embraced Make in India, not now, but for many, many years. That's why you see that most of the ships they operate are now made here. And the reason that we are seeing a stronger Navy emerging is that, this capability of shipyards in India, not just government-owned, but also private shipyards. For example, L&T has a great shipyard which augments the Navy's capability. So that ecosystem has been created. And I think that's a great success story for India. And if that is used more, the submarines that we are manufacturing, the Scorpene or the Calvary class, it is made in India, but it's not really indigenous because a lot of the parts are sourced from abroad. But the next range of submarines that we are looking at now, the 75I project, that they will have more indigenous components. And that is perhaps the last submarine that we will ever buy from abroad. So the idea is now that after 75I project, that every future submarine to be made to be operated by India has to be made in India. And that's why, the Navy is a very capital intensive service. And unfortunately, it's not been getting its fair share of money, the amount of money they require over the past few years, but they still manage little by little because of this creation of this local industry here. Because when the industry is present here, you don't have to, you can delay your programs. You don't have to be dependent on a foreign supplier when the demand for money is immediate. So I think they've done a good job. Some deficiencies remain, which they're trying to make up. Submarines, of course, we need more of them. There's a requirement for air-based assets, helicopters, and one old requirement of counter-mine vessels, which has been pending for a long time. But beyond that, I think they have been doing well. And the Navy's dream, which is still not clear with the government, is to have a third aircraft carrier. We will have two very soon because INS Vikrant is going to get commissioned next year, but they want one after that also. It requires a lot of money, but the ambitions are to be a world-class Navy which can face off with any enemy of any capability.
Okay. Commodore Singh, how would you assess, the platforms and the technologies which are there with Indian Navy right now, and the entire process of augmenting the capabilities so far? Where do we stand?
As Manu brought out very clearly, the Navy has been well ahead of the curve as far as indigenization goes and self-reliance goes. So, in a ship, when we look at a ship, we look at three elements. We look at a float element, we look at a move element, and we look at a fight element in the case of a warship. The float element is the hull portion. That means the steel, the fabrication of the hull, so that a ship can float. Now, in that, we have achieved more than 90% indigenization because all the steel that is being used for manufacture of Indian warships and now submarines also is Indian steel. We are not importing steel from anywhere. Then we come to the move element. The move element is the engines, the pipes, the systems, the valves, which make a submarine or a ship move through water. Everything to do with propulsion and the running of a ship in water. In that, we have achieved about 60 to 65% indigenization. However, there are certain critical elements like gas turbine. We still don't manufacture gas turbines in India. That's probably the next step that will happen. We don't manufacture diesels in India because perhaps Indian industry has not felt that the scales justify that kind of investment. But nevertheless, I think we will get there rather than later. It is the fight element that is always a little bit of concern because so far the fight element, which is the weapons, the sensors, the real thing which make a warship, after all, a warship is meant to go to war. There we have the fight element is only about 35 to 40%. But their number may be 30%, but we must understand some of the capabilities that we've developed. Now, the BrahMos missile is totally indigenous. The future ships are going to be armed with the BrahMos missile. The Varunastra torpedo, it may not be the ultimate state-of-the-art, absolutely cutting-edge technology torpedo, but it's a heavyweight torpedo. Now, the next iteration of this torpedo will be much better. So, most of the sonars are Indian, the communication sets are Indian, most of the radars are Indian, the torpedo is Indian, the missile is Indian. So, we keep seeing a progressive increase in the indigenization of content on board Indian naval ships. As far as capability goes, while we are augmenting capability, the Navy is augmenting its capability. As Manu brought out, the Navy is not getting, frankly speaking, its fair share of the defense budget. Many years ago, the Navy had projected a requirement of 20% share of the defense budget to meet its requirements. That number started going up from about 14% and had reached about 18% till about 2013, 2014, or maybe even 15. But slowly we found, surprisingly, despite this emphasis on maritime power, India being a maritime country, very important, etc., we found the Navy's budget share reducing every year. Till last year, it had come down to only about 14%. Now, 14% was definitely inadequate to meet the Navy's capital needs. That means the cost of building new ships and submarines. Fortunately, this year, we've seen an increase to about 16%. And I hope this trend will continue over the next few years. And the Navy gets its desired 20% of the share of defense budget in the next couple of years. There has been a lot of controversy about the aircraft carrier. Why does the Navy want a third aircraft carrier? Now, one thing I want to make clear, if the Indian Navy wants to be a blue water navy and ability to project power in the Indian Ocean as the leading navy of the Indian Ocean and a net security provider, 3 aircraft carriers is the basic minimum requirement so that any given time, the Navy can field 2 carrier battle groups, one on the eastern seaboard and one on the western seaboard. After all, the area of operation of responsibility of the Navy extends from almost from the western end of the Indian Ocean till almost now, even you could include Southeast Asia and the Western Pacific in that. Now, that's a huge area to cover, that kind of capability. Now, the thing I want to highlight here is that 3 aircraft carriers is not a new requirement. From 1948, when the first naval plan was approved, the requirement was for 3 aircraft carriers. It's a pity that the Navy has never had 3 aircraft carriers. And the third thing I want to highlight is it is not that the Navy wants 3 aircraft carriers. This is a misnomer. The Navy does not want 3 aircraft carriers. But if the country wants the Navy to do what it should be doing in projecting power, and the way the country wants a Navy of a particular size and strength, then the Navy needs 3 aircraft carriers. So this is not, and I will re-emphasize, this is not a naval requirement. This is a national requirement. And this is an area which we need to understand. So if the government doesn't want carriers, then they should be content with India being a medium-level power with a medium-level Navy being able to project limited power. But if we are looking at great power status, if we are looking to become a big global power, we need to build our Navy accordingly. Otherwise, we'll always fall short of expectations.
Okay. Manu, your views there on these aspects, and the future roadmap, specifically if you're looking at weapons platforms like the 3rd aircraft carrier, as Commodore Singh was pointing out, the requirements, the need, and then also to meet achieve the strategic goals, which have time and again been, emphasized by the top leadership.
No, so I would agree with what he said, because, to achieve a world-class Navy, a Navy which can support, why do you need a 3rd aircraft carrier? It's very simple. I'll give you a scenario to understand. Say, India has interests in South Africa or somewhere in the southern part of Africa. There is a mine. There's a mine there. Underwater drilling station where we are drilling out petroleum, for example, and some foreign navy, just tries to come and take it over. You will to protect that. You will need an aircraft carrier, but you can't leave your country unprotected. So you will need something to stay on your western border also. At the same time, if some trouble happens, on the eastern side with China, you need a third. You need assets to maintain your stature as a country. The reason for aircraft carrier is simple: that you should always have the ability to intervene in a situation anywhere around the world in which your interest is impacted. And I think that is the reason that most people in the Navy emphasize on more aircraft carriers. See, not just that. I think the future of the Navy is beyond the platforms they operate. It is the collaborations that they do, and I think a lot of hope I have that in the future we will see Indian shipyards exporting weapons, exporting ships. We have shown that Indian shipyards are capable of making ships, at least for the Indian Navy. The next step is now to make them more competitive, to make them cheaper, to be able to supply them to our partners, because security is a thing you can't do alone. You need to have partners and allies. And the best way of projecting that power is to be able to sell and operate the same platforms. I think the Navy is already looking ahead on that. As we speak right now, there's an Indian ship in Mauritius undergoing training, joint training with them. They will be patrolling together. So the Navy has been doing all of that. And to enable it to continue doing these interactions with friendly foreign nations, they will need more assets. And aircraft carriers definitely one of them. Of course, they will also need more frigates, need more helicopters. There is a requirement that they have, which is getting fulfilled for additional maritime surveillance aircraft. And as we know, that they are the first force in the country to operate a US origin UAV. Which they are now operating, for the Indian Ocean region. I think they're going to get some more of that. So, from the ability to see what is happening in the Indian Ocean region to the ability to be able to reach that spot and the ability to be able to destroy your enemy, those all 3 factors have to be covered. And I think we are well on the way for that of it. But the aircraft carrier point is something that most people in the Navy will tell you is essential.
Okay, definitely. There are more assets which are required out there, as both the gentlemen have pointed out. One last question here, and I'd like to bring you in, Commodore Singh, again, is the issue of the theatre commands, and how will that once implemented further, sort of augment the prowess of Indian Navy out there?
Well, personally, if you ask me, I'm not sure that this talk of a maritime command really is, of a single maritime command, to me, frankly, doesn't make sense. Because the Indian Navy already operates in two distinct theaters. There is the Western theater and there's the Eastern theater. The Western theater extends all the way from the west coast of India up to Djibouti and the Horn of Africa. The Eastern seaboard extends all the way from the east coast of Visakhapatnam, the Bay of Bengal, all the way up to the South China Sea and beyond. Now, when you have such a wide area of operations where you expect the Navy to operate in the next few years, you consider yourself a major Indo-Pacific power. You already have two theater commands. They're operating in two different theaters. And by consolidating it into a single maritime command, I do not see any objective being met. Because in any case, you will require two fleets. You will anyway require two dockyards. You can't have ships coming from Vizag to Bombay for refits or going from Bombay to Vizag for refits. So when you're not going to be able changing any of the core infrastructure or the operational construct of the Navy, this concept of having, I have frankly not understood. I'm sorry, I'm being blunt, but that is the way it is.
Okay, Manu, your views there on the the theatre commands, the maritime command, single united maritime command there. Do you agree with what Commodore Singh is saying, or there are several positives also being listed by the experts there?
No, see, I think everyone agrees, and I think Commodore Singh will also agree that a joint command is needed. I think his point is that it should not be one; there could be more. I'm imagining, but my view there is that an integrated command is essential for India. And the way it is done, whether there should be one, two, whether there should be an expeditionary command, that is something that the experts need to work out. But there's no doubt that a theater command concept is required, because that is the way the world is already moved to. That's what already is happening across the world. The Americans are not the Chinese moved to that concept themselves. And I think it makes sense on a couple of things. One is that you can plan acquisitions better, so you can have joint requirements which will not lead to wastages. Right now, for example, the Navy, the Air Force, and the Army are all looking for helicopters of the same class, but the procurement programs are all over the place. So you need a joint approach, to do that. Secondly, on theater commands, you can also utilize forces better. You can shift. You will have lesser wastages when it comes to using weapon systems or even personnel. So I think that the concept itself is good. The contours of it on one or two, whether an island command is needed, whether we need a peninsular command, that is something I think where there's a lot of debate set to be done.
Okay, definitely there is discussion going on, and on this aspect, definitely policymakers and strategists will take sort of a concerted decision based on all the aspects. Thank you so much, Manu, there for your views, and Commodore Singh as well for simplifying various things for us. The issue of platforms, technologies, and how they have been augmented in the recent past. So there it is, all about the augmentation of Indian Navy's capabilities, how the process has been going on for quite some time now, what exactly is that we have set out to achieve, how far we've gone there, and what more needs to be done. We'll come back again next week with a different topic. Till then, keep watching Sunset Television. Thank you.